And this is where we actually were 100 years ago?
We used to be here. In fact, Grover Cleveland has this excellent statement. In 1887, President Cleveland said, "Though the people may support their government, the government shall not support the people." That's somewhere near the far end of the scale.
Right.
Lawrence Reed of the Foundation for Economic Education has done great research on what Grover Cleveland, his vision for welfare.
Okay, but we changed this in the 90s, and then we've changed it back.
Well, that's right, and this began to creep. It began to creep in this direction in the progressive era, and then the New Deal brought a lot of new kinds of government assistance programs and began to crowd out charity. And by the time you got to the Great Society, you had very generous entitlements. They were generous, and you were just entitled.
Aren't we here really that everyone is entitled almost, aren't we?
Well, not exactly, because we had a very positive change in 1996. It was small but positive. Due to the intellectual work of people like Senator Moynihan, you had Charles Murray, you had Marvin Olasky. They made the case that these handouts with no strings attached were harmful, and then we got this policy where we are now. We still have welfare, but there are some work restrictions on it.
All right, that's the basic Overton window. Now, there's two things that happen, and we'll be talking about this later. There's two things that happen. One, a politician or a group, radicals, could decide they're going to move it way past where you're comfortable. And there's something called, what is it, Overton's revenge?
There is an Overton's revenge.
Yeah, Overton's revenge. Also, how the politicians have moved this window, they know one thing, and when you see this, you'll never watch a politician the same ever again. More on that later in the week. Thank you very much.
During President Obama's address on the BP oil spill, he turned to focus on the need for energy reform.
As we recover from this recession, the transition to clean energy has the potential to grow our economy and create millions of jobs. But only if we accelerate that transition. Only if we seize the moment.
Is an energy bill the next item on the president's agenda? Joining me now, Chris Horner, author of Power Grab, How Obama's Green Policies Will Steal Your Freedom and Bankrupt America, and my colleagues Liz Clayman, Fox Business anchor. Chris, first to you. What does the president want to do, and how does he want to use the crisis in the Gulf of Mexico to help him do it faster, bigger, and quicker?
Well, it's pretty clear that he showed contempt for all of us last night, Judge, by refusing the dog that didn't bark. He has been saying for 2 years precisely what he wanted to do to us. He has said over and over 8 times that Spain was his model for a green economy, which, of course, is central planning with withdrawn and rebranded with a splash of green paint on it. And last night, by choosing to omit, now, I think for the first time, his European models for the green economy, he's acknowledging what we and some Spanish and some other European academics have been pointing out now for some time. Today, in Spain, in fact, as the president was putting on his makeup last night, the Spanish media was going to press with stories noting that the socialist government had given the green jobs industry 48 hours to accept a massive cut in their subsidy, or the jig was up, because it's turning them into the next Greece, bankrupting them, and they can't afford it. The president cited for 2 years Spain as his model. He still wants to do it. He says we have to pump the gas further, not the brakes, despite what happened in all of the train wrecks he used to cite. And last night, by refusing to cite them, finally, I think for the first time, he acknowledged that he knows what he's trying to do.
As Margaret Thatcher used to say, the problem with socialism is sooner or later you run out of other people's money. Are we going through the sort of debate that the country went through 100 years ago? Which is better, free choice of individual investors and consumers, or central planning by the government? And is the government going to use one crisis after another crisis after another crisis to make the argument for central planning?
But it doesn't, Judge. It doesn't use a crisis. Go back just 4 decades, okay? We had the oil shock where the Arabs really stuck it to us. And I know you remember where whatever license plate ended in odd or even, you had to wait in line or you didn't get gasoline that day. From that, we learned Nothing, Judge. We have no energy policy after this. You know, Chris makes a point, President Obama wants to do this. You know, every president, whether it was Reagan or Bush or President Clinton, brought up, an energy policy. We still don't have it. That's an embarrassment.
Chris, is he going to push for cap and trade? Are they going to tell me that a federal agent has to come and inspect the windows in my private home before I can sell it? And are they going to get that kind of a law passed as a result of the crisis in the Gulf of Mexico?
Well, real quickly, I want to disagree slightly with Liz. We've learned since the oil shock that America sits on the world's largest energy resources, the largest resources in the world. So when he tried to imply the opposite last night by saying that we're in deep water, so to speak, because we're running out of places to get it, that too was a hot poker in the eye of every hardworking American upon whom he seeks to impose energy poverty, which will mean poverty. Now cap and trade. Will it come with his so-called green economy? So far it has been intertwined with it. He said during the campaign he wanted to use it to bankrupt those energy industries he didn't like. He used that term, bankrupt.
Right.
He said he wanted to use it to cause your electricity prices to skyrocket and to raise billions of dollars. So I don't know how he plans on doing what Spain has bankrupted itself with, what's been a train wreck in Denmark and Germany and Italy and elsewhere, without the revenues. I used the Freedom of Information Act to find out that the Treasury Department hopes for up to $400 billion per year, the equivalent, according to them, of our corporate income tax haul from cap and trade.
So I think, it's got to be part of it. The Information Act or Yahoo Finance is that companies like Duke Energy and American Electric Power are actually for cap and trade. They are actually trying to help craft legislation because, of course, they want to get out in front of it. But you talk to General Electric, you talk to AEP or a Duke Energy, they're big utilities. They've got carbon sequestration going. They've got all kinds of scrubbers for coal because they realize it's coming, and they're just trying to get out ahead of it.
I got to tell you both. I am unhappy when the government is in bed with industry or industry is in bed with the government, whether you are a free market person or you believe in regulation.
Well, free market should always reign, Judge. You know that.
Can I address those rent seekers, Judge?
Chris agrees as well. Chris Horner, Liz Clayman, thanks very much. We will be right back.
I'm told that tens of thousands of prayer meetings are being held on this day. For that, I'm deeply grateful. We are a nation under God, and I believe God intended for us to be free. It would be fitting and good, I think, if on each inaugural day in future years, it should be declared a day of prayer.
Since taking office, President Obama has expanded the use of drones in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Pakistan to aid our military. But now, the FAA is under pressure to approve the use of unmanned spy vehicles here in the United States. Will that put Americans under a government-monitored microscope? Let's ask Wayne Simmons, a former intelligence operative, and Jacob Hornberger, the founder and president of the Future of Freedom Foundation. Gentlemen, welcome here. Wayne, to you first. Do drones work, and what do they do when we use them in Pakistan or Afghanistan or Iraq?
Hi, Judge. Yeah, they absolutely work. We have actually, Judge, second-generation platforms now called multi-platform technology. We can actually put a dirigible up that can stay up about 7 days from about 20,000 feet over virtually any type of war zone or any type of area, and real-time view the enemy coming at us from virtually any direction. So I suspect that we can take that same technology, move it over onto the southern border and perhaps the northern border, and use that to keep an eye on the bad guys trying to come across our border.
Yeah, but Jacob, the last time I checked, the military is not allowed to operate in the United States. The CIA is not allowed to operate in the United States. The right to privacy is still enshrined in the Fourth Amendment. Question: can the federal government put satellites in the sky, whether you call them drones or something else, to spy on us as we go about our daily business in this country?
Of course not, and it's never going to be limited to just quote the bad guys. You're talking about the continuing trend toward the militarization of American society, and it revolves around things like the war on drugs. That is a failed war that has gone on for some 30 years. They're going to be using these drones to monitor backyards of people, to see what they're growing, what they're smoking. This is the road to 1984, Orwell's nightmare, Judge.
Wayne, should these drones be able to kill Americans who are in foreign countries whom the president has targeted, even though the Constitution requires the government to arrest Americans, charge them with a crime, and put them on trial?
Well, that's certainly way above my pay grade, Judge. It's a good question. It's a question that someone way above me is going to have to deal with at some time. But the bottom line is I admire and respect Jacob and his work, but I would suspect that he's just way off on this issue about spying on Americans on the southern border. That's not what this technology is for. It can be utilized only to spy on the terrorists that are at the border, and we need that. We don't have a fence. We don't have a wall. This can provide and go a long way to protecting Americans and our national security at the same time.